welcome to yet another cube. What a pack, not that great, but there is a better skull. I think I'm gonna pick that. Excuse me. Kirk is obviously pretty good. Hellrider is good if I want to go red. Parallax Wave is an okay card. Tale is fine. Tatsu is obviously good as well. Find anyone else. Like, most of these cards are viable, but I think better skull is better first pick because you can play it in so many decks. I'm not the kind of player that forces things. I usually just go with the flow and see what I get, and I pick the better ones out of those. Which usually ends up with me not being in the colors that I'm comfortable with, and then I'm stuck with certain things, but we'll see. I think Better Skulls are a really great first pick. There's Oracle, Supreme Verdict, Chasm Skulker. I guess Hero's Downfall is really good as well. But I'm not such a big fan of black, to be honest. Supreme Verdict does commit me to two colors though. I'm not a big fan of that either. Now Better Skull usually goes better in somewhat of a control deck. In which case Hero's Downfall is the better control card. Or Chasm Skulker or Supreme Verdict even. Because it's an AoE, destroy all creatures. But if I go blue, white, do I want anything else here? Maybe the Skulker. Let's go for the Verdict. We might not play it, but I think it's given that I first picked the Better Skull, is a better option. Usually, it is a better option, so we'll pick that. Person to my right seems to be slow, like he's always timing out. Maybe he's commenting himself, or he's not here. Well, we get to Mio. We also get Serendip Efreet. Both are really good cards. Serendip Efreet is actually a card I usually want in these kind of decks because it's such a good early game creature. We don't have many of in those colors in blue, white. But the Mio is just so strong. Can I replace Serendip Efreet with anything? Like, Tamiya is easier to replace, I think, by stuff like Gideon. Compared to Serendip Efreet, there just aren't many creatures like that, but I still think Tamiya is stronger. There's no way Serendip Efreet wheels, it never does. There's Waterfront Bouncer. There's a Johnny Goldman to keep keeping me alive, I guess. There's Trigon Predator, which you might be able to splash if the tempo wheels, but I'm not a huge fan of that either. Maybe we pick the Predator, and if we don't have the white to go with our control, we can still go blue-green, and then have the Predator around. The other pick would be Waterfront Bouncer or Future Sight. Nah, I think I'll go for a Predator. Like, if the tempo wheels, we can then make that choice. Everflowing Chalice is obviously a pretty good card for me, but I think I have to go for the Journey. Usually want somewhat of creature removal, and Journey being at 2 mana is pretty cheap. Like, there's Peto Exile, but that gives you on the land. So Splasher is obviously the better one. It's the best one. The best one out there. Journey for 2. I guess this is Merfolk Looter, right? But we're not getting a lot of blue or white. Maybe someone to my right is those colors. Because I mean, if you were black, you would pick up something like Necrotal or Sonic Markov. Like, Necrotal is pretty good. Red seems open. There's Brimstone Volley, Killing Fiend. Well, Brimstone Volley is obviously a better one. But maybe like this pack was loaded with red cards and no blue cards. You never know. As much as I want Glacial Fortress, I think I have to go for the Compulsive Research. You want some kind of card draw. Compulsive Research, yes, not an instant, but it's a good one. You usually have like an excess of lands, and if you don't, you can use it to dig for lands. It's not always going to be card advantage, but that doesn't matter. Else it would have been like Glacial Fortress, for sure. I think I want to go for somewhat of guard draw. Jace would obviously be bonkers. Gideon. The old Gideon, by the way. Like, the new one I really don't like. The 4 mana one that has something like it becomes XX, where X is the amount of tokens on it. I don't know. Yeah, this guy's always timing out to imagine. Okay. Also, I ran out of phantom tickets or phantom points. I had to buy tickets, which is okay. Like, it doesn't really matter. I guess we pick Mirror's Cut, and maybe we can splash that. Anyway, I ran out of tickets, so I had to buy event tickets. I ran out of Phantom points, so I had to buy event tickets. I was like, yeah, I think it costs like 12. So I buy 24. Apparently there's a tax on tickets now. Maybe it always has been there and was never shown, or it was introduced at a certain point and I just never noticed. I don't know. We could pick Isolated Chapel because we have the Murderous Cut, but I think Miscalculation is good enough to pick that over it. So about 24, and then I enroll. It's like it's 10. So I have 4 tickets too many now. Which means I actually have 6 tickets too short, right? Because there's no way I can sell 4 tickets. So I should just buy 6 other ones. But I have like enough phantom points. Like no matter if I even go O3 here, I'll still be able to play another one. I guess Shadow Skulker over Essence Scatter. Essence Scatter is good though. I think Essence Scatter is a bit better. I still need some threats, by the way, like Frost Titan. I guess it's Jared's Verdict. Probably won't be played. Let's put the Dragon Predator and the Murderous Cut aside, but let's keep it in mind that we actually have those. Let's put those at this in the green slot and this in the black slot, basically. I guess it's Future Sight. Like Goldman is okay, but we're not a creature-based deck, so would someday be playing it to gain 2 life every turn. I think a 4 mana investment to do that is still fine. Living Dead is an okay card. Wow, red is so open. Yep. If I first picked, I had a red card that I could first pick. A pretty good one. I was like, yeah, if you want to force red, you should pick that one. Not sure anymore which one it was. So there's Dig Through Time, there's Yosei, and there's Jace. There's also Talrand, but meh. I think Dig Through Time is the stronger one. The card is broken and constructed, but I'm not sure how good it is here. We usually don't have anything that goes with our graveyard, so Dig Through Time is pretty good. It's just a late game card though. Jay is obviously fine, and Yosei is obviously fine, but I don't think Dig Through Time. I think Dig Through Time is a bit better than Jay's. Because I just don't have the early game. Yeah, let's go Dig Through Time. It also digs us to... wow. It also digs us through 2 Financiers. Treachery, yes there's a Radical God, but Treachery is just too good to pass up here. Cool art on Brainstorm, by the way. But Treachery, yeah, I mean, that card is first pickable. That card is pretty good. Like Shackles now would be bonkers. Frost Titan, Blade Splicer is good as well. There's Repeal, Seagate Oracle, but I don't think I can pass up a Blade Splicer. It's a good 3-drop that stops aggro as well. The same with Serendip Efreet. I think Blade Splicer comes pretty close in stopping aggro because it's a 3/3 first striker. So let's pick up a Blade Splicer, hope the Repeal wheels, which it often does, to be honest. Like the next blue player will pick Seagate Oracle and then I get Repeal. But again, not a lot of blue in those packs. Or in that pack, maybe. Well, there were 2 cards still. Still 2 blue cards. I guess Fate's Ferrers is better than Manowar. Just because it removes Planeswalkers as well. It gains me 4 life. I also would pick like Manowar or Brimaz. Like Brimaz is obviously another good 3-drop that stops things and can apply pressure. Maybe it's better than Fate's Feathers. Because I just don't have a late game yet. I still need to pick up a pretty good late game. I guess Wasteland is better, right? Or Forge of Will, but I'm usually not a fan of the Force. I've been blown on by it though. Maybe I should try it out. Like, I have plenty of blue cards in my deck. It's just that it's such a card disadvantage. I think Wasteland and punishing people is a bit better. Like, it's very unlikely I'll be splashing. So in that case I can afford running Wasteland. But I usually don't want to be the one wastelanding, so... Wow, there's Kiora. Kiora versus Legacy's Lure. I think we already messed up by not picking like the 2 fixes we could have picked. In that case, Legacy's Lure is better than the Kiora. The Kiora is pretty bonkers. But I want to stay 2 colors, so I'm gonna go for Legacy's Lure. There's a Sun Titan and Geist. Sun Titan only works with Blade Splicer. Oh, it works with Legacy's Lure. It's an okay late game card. It's 6/6. If you picked up Kiora, would have slammed Temple here, but there's a Geist and a Sun Titan. I think Sun Titan is just better. We could also pick the Dismisser or Temple, but we already have the Force now, so I think Sun Titan is a better pick here. And then of course you get like Keiga. Temple of Enlightenment, sure, but I think Keiga, given that, you know, I want some late game, is better. I think my late game is good now. Like, I have 3 late game bombs plus Tamio. Future Sight I might play, I might not play, we'll see. So now I have to focus a bit more on the early game still. Figure out how I'm gonna stop my opponent from hitting me in the face early, and that usually comes with creatures. Like Blade Splicer is a really good one. Usually wants stuff like Sower of Temptation. Because that just takes away their aggro as well. Some kind of other early game removal card like Condemn. Even the 2 white X mana spell I'll play. Wow, Yosei Wheels. So are we gonna go for Double Dragon? We're gonna go for Double Dragon. Dragon Power. I think Keiga, given the deck I have, is a bit stronger than Yosei. Because Yosei is more of a tempo card. Where you lock out your opponent for a single turn. I don't really have a shuffle effect, but I think Brainstorm is still a bit better than Time Warp. Brainstorm is obviously bonkers, but only bonkers with shuffle effects. Like, if you brainstorm and you see terrible cards, you have to put them back and you know you're drawing terrible cards for the next 2 turns. So someone picked Repeal over Seagate Oracle. I guess that's fine. Both replace themselves, and Repeal actually does a bit more than Seagate Oracle thing. But Seagate Oracle has benefits with Fencer. It can keep on blocking, but usually in the control deck you just want to take away the tempo from your opponent because you have the better late game. That's why I'm so focused on having a late game with these kind of decks. Like, I tend to draft decks and be like, I don't really need a late game, I can win during the mid game. But with a control deck you just want to stall, and then win with some kind of bomb in the late game. Manowar Wheel in there is a definite slam by me. Interesting. I guess I'll pick Nicol Bolas and never play it. Kiora Wheels. Okay. Does the other card wheel the land? No way the land wheels, right? So we'll put it there. We'll keep it in mind that we have it, but I don't know if we'll play it. So Red God was picked as Miss Wheels. Wow. So we probably won't play Future Sight. I probably not afford the wheel. I'm really... Oh, the Essence Scatter won't... Well, you can play Essence Scatter main deck. A countering creature spell at 2. Cube is creature based for most decks. Not all decks, of course. I mean, there's plenty of decks out there that are Planeswalker based, or... But most of them are creature based, and even the other ones do play some creatures that you can always control. Like Essence Scatter will always find a target. The problem with Essence Scatter is that people just get too greedy with it. Be like, oh no, I'm not gonna counter this, he might play something better later. Yeah, he might, but he might not. There's Small Drifter, but there's also Condemn. I've been talking about Condemn, I think I want it here. I've been saying that I want another 1-drop removal. I think Condemn is that one. Small Drifter is obviously a fine card. But I think the Condemn is better. There's even a possibility that this wheels, though it's very unlikely. So pick the Condemn. And I'd be happy playing a deck like this. I still think I want maybe a replacement for the Brainstorm. Maybe a replacement for Force. For the future sides. Constant Judgment, huh? So previously when we saw this we were like, yeah, we actually don't want this. But it says a permanent you don't control. So it's always 1 or 2 permanents of your opponent. And you can actually outlevel your opponent with this card. I think it's a pretty fun card. Like, it's a fun design, but it's also okay. But you have to like gamble. Wow, Ancestor Visions. I guess Ancestor Vision is better than Teferi here. So let's pick up that one. Probably replaces Brainstorm, but we'll see. But yeah, I first thought it read like you vote for a permanent of your opponent, and your opponent votes for a permanent of your non-land. So it only works if you don't own a permanent, but your opponent does. Which apparently isn't what it says. It says you don't control. So your opponent, you choose a card. Wow, Baneslayer and Elspeth. It's obviously the Baneslayer here, because it applies pressure. So yeah, there goes the Force of Will. I think this is a fun card. Last time my opponent played on me, or obviously the game of slots, but I was like, yeah, he probably figures I'm gonna pick Yosei, so I actually have to pick my best card, because he's always gonna be clicking my best card. So I basically out-leveled him there, and we clicked the same card, so which means that that card only vanished. But like, if you just played a 3, it always means that for 3 mana you get to destroy your opponent's best permanent, and if your opponent misreads the situation, you even get a second permanent with it. But it still means that, to me, you as a player playing this still have to click on the best permanent online, on the best permanent that you own, because it's else a leveling game, and if your opponent clicks on another permanent, like, you misjudge. You're like, yeah, maybe this player is good and he's gonna think the same way I do, that I'm gonna click his best permanent, so he's gonna click his own best permanent. So in that case, I have to click the second best permanent, so that those two die. If that makes any sense. Here's Seal of Cleansing. If that makes any sense, which I think it does. I think that makes plenty of sense to most of you viewers out there. It's basically a leveling game, but if you misjudge a situation and you think your opponent, you overestimate your opponent, you're like, yeah, this guy's good and he's gonna do that, so I have to do that. And you're like, I'm gonna click the second best permanent, and then the guy's like, I only have 2 permanents here. I want my best one to live. Let's just click the worst one, and then you're still gonna be up against that best permanent of your opponent. So it's a judging situation, and it's a very, very interesting situation, to be honest. Meloku, I think it's better than the Eternal Dragon here. We obviously have too many late game cards now. I think Yosei is the worst one. Future Sight is obviously gone. I think Force is still gone, by the way. And then one more, maybe the Brainstorm, but I'm not 100% sure about that yet. So yeah, I think this opens up, and this is why Magic is so entertaining, and why I love poker as well, because poker is all about that leveling game. It's all about that leveling game. Because if you play against people who also understand poker and play at the same level, and balance their range, and so on and so on, for those that understand what it means, Wall of Omens versus this one versus one Power Stone. I don't really have much to do with permanents outside of Fate Spheres and Supreme Verdict, and hitting it, of course. So maybe this is better than the Worm Power Stone. The Worm Power Stone accelerates me to these, which I want to. But I think I have plenty of early game to spend my mana on, so in that case, Wall of Omens is better. But this card is also pretty good. I don't think this will. This accelerates me to 6. Wall of Omens it is. I had to make a decision quickly, so made it. Sekishima versus Banishing Priest versus Savannah. I don't think we'll have enough fakes to run Kiora. I mean, we have seen all packs outside of this. So it's Sekishima versus Banisher Priest. In which case, I figure Banisher Priest is better. I think we have enough late game that Sekishima isn't that necessary. Anyway, so we saw those packs already, right? So Tectonic Edge. Could also pick Basilisk Scholar. Nah, Tectonic Edge is better. Although, might play it, might not. We'll see. Anyway, poker is all about leveling game because your opponent does something and you're like, okay, this should never be a bluff, right? Maybe it's a spot on the river and it's like, this should never be a bluff. And then you're like, okay, but my opponent knows that this should never be a bluff. So in that case, it's a really great spot for him to actually bluff. Right? So if you can if you figure that your opponent doesn't think you can ever bluff here, then it's a really great spot to bluff because your opponent thinks it's never going to be a bluff there, so he's never going to call. In which case, and then you start leveling, right? Then you're like, okay, so my opponent knows that this is a really terrible spot to be bluffing, or a spot you shouldn't bluff, so in that case it's a really good spot to bluff, so this could be a bluff, but then my opponent knows that I know that that's the situation, and then maybe it is not a bluff. And at that point you become leveling. It's the same in Magic, like level 0 you have to play at level 1 you have to play at level 2 you have to play, and it's infinite, like there's no stopping that leveling. But if you go too deep there, you out-level yourself. You start thinking too far, and you just make a mistake because of that. So that's an issue with leveling, is that you can obviously out-level yourself. Anyway, back to the Magic. We have 28 cards, so 5 need to go. I think the Brainstorm is gone. We have no shuffle effect, so not that great here. I think most of these are good. Maybe not the Teferi, but Teferi is good enough. Maybe the Banisher Priest is gone. We want to bring it in against something. I mean, we do have Fate's Feathers, Manowar. I think here, I think we want to keep these. Force Spike is an okay card, so 3 more to go. I think we don't really necessarily want a Merfolk Looter, although it is good with the dig through time. Wait, someone said something about wow, thank you, Monsoon. Monsoon commented on a video where I was saying like, oh yeah, the wizards this thing, but apparently you can group them separately and then it does this, which is awesome. Like, I didn't know that. And that's the wonders of YouTube, of course. People helping you out. But this is pretty cool. The fact that you can do this now with a single click. And actually orders it as it should. Anyway, this is still a creature though. So there's not that many creatures, but that's given with a control deck. I think the creatures that are here are pretty good. Maybe we can cut one. I think it's then Wall of Omens, Merfolk Looter, or the Seagate Oracle. Maybe the Teferi. We have 5 late game plus this, so maybe the Teferi. But Teferi is a good card. Just this. So that means that we have to cut 3 more cards out of this. We have Essence Scatter, Miscalculation, Force Spike, and Dismisses Counter. I think that's too much. I think we'll cut the Essence Scatter and put it to the side. We can obviously bring it in against creature heavy decks. I usually want like 1 hard counter in my decks, so Dismiss is there. Miscalculation, you can always cycle it. And Force Spike, I'm willing to give it a try. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I understand why it's strong. And even if you just use it once and then the other games you sideboard it out, your opponent still plays around it often enough. And that's why Days was so good in Legacy. Because even if you sideboard it out, people still play around the Days, and you still gain the tempo that you wanted without even having to play the Days. Because people had to play around it, because if you Daze something, it's so brutal. So we obviously want a Supreme Verdict, the Fates Bearers, Tamio, obviously Treachery, yeah. Which two cards do you got here? The Fairy and Merfolk Looter? I think those are my worst creatures. Like, Wall of Bombs is pretty good against aggro, plus it draws a card, of course. Compared to Merfolk Looter, isn't that great, but it does draw you cards. Well, it doesn't really draw me cards. It goes through my cards, which obviously makes dig through time pretty solid. I think it's the Fairy and the Looter that have to go. But the Fairy is good because I run Dismiss. Now let's go to the Fairy and the Looter. I think I'm more of a tap out deck anyway. Let's just go over it once more. So I think we want those three counters. We want Supreme Verdict and Fate's Fairs. Constant Judgment, Journey to Nowhere, Condemn, obviously, Answers of Visions, discard, draw, Compulsive Freezer, discard, Tamio because it's a bomb, Treachery because it's a bomb. Then Dig Through Time, I think I want to try it out. So about the Tectonic Edge, not 100% sold on it, so I won't play it. We'll bring it in if we see our opponent heavy on non-basics, and if I had drafted the Wasteland, maybe I would have considered playing both of those then. But now, given that we have plenty of double blue and even some double white, I think we have to go with this. At basic lands, it's gonna suggest a bunch of more blue than... Wait, no it isn't. So 9-8, that actually sounds solid. I expected them to be like 10-7, which they usually do. But it didn't, so I'll submit, and I'll see you guys in round 1.